Rome, March 15th, 44 BC. The most famous assassination in history is about to happen. As Caesar steps into the theater of Pompey, he believes he has escaped his fate. But seconds later, his body would receive 32 stab wounds. Clearly, they weren't taking any chances. But what if he had deflected that first strike? What if Brutus's blade had missed, and Caesar walked out of that room alive? Today we're asking one of history's greatest questions. What if Caesar had survived? What would the world look like? And more importantly, were the men who tried to kill him actually wrong? The truth is, fate tried to warn Caesar all morning, but he ignored every single sign. And honestly, if he had paid just a little more attention, everything might have been different. That morning, Caesar woke up to find his wife, Calpurnia, in absolute terror. In her dream, their house had collapsed, and Caesar lay in her arms, covered in blood. Now here's the strange part. Calpurnia wasn't superstitious, but this time, she was truly shaken, and for the first time ever, she convinced Caesar to cancel the meeting. He agreed. Sacrifices were made to consult the gods. The results? Terrible. One of the animals didn't even have a heart. The message was clear: do not go. But then, Decimus Brutus arrived. Because at that moment, everything changed. Caesar had already decided he wasn't going to the Senate, and that news reached the conspirators. They panicked, because their entire plan depended on one thing: Caesar entering that room. And now, that plan was falling apart, so they played their strongest card. One of Caesar's most trusted men, Decimus Brutus. He was sent directly to Caesar's house, and instead of stopping him, he did the exact opposite. He said, "Great Caesar, are you really going to keep the Senate waiting because of a dream your wife had?" And then another blow. "They might crown you king today, but if you don't show up, people will think you're afraid." And in that moment, this was no longer about safety. It was about pride. The priests warned him openly. "There are bad omens. Don't go." But Brutus didn't stop. "Maybe the gods are testing your courage," he said. And Caesar was convinced. Honestly, when you look at everything that happened that morning, your wife telling you not to go, the priests warning you something is wrong, at some point, you stop and think, what exactly am I walking into? But Caesar never stopped. And then, there was something even more unsettling. This didn't start that morning. Weeks earlier, a well-known seer named Spurina had already warned Caesar. The coming days are dangerous, especially before the Ides of March, meaning March 15th, and that very morning. It was almost as if fate stepped in one last time. Caesar saw him again. He paused, and with a slight smirk said, "Look, Spurina, the Ides of March have come. In other words, the day you feared is here, and nothing happened." Spurina didn't even flinch. He simply replied, "Yes, it has come, but it has not passed." Meaning, the day wasn't over yet. The danger was still there. But Caesar ignored that too. And then, one final sign. A teacher named Artemidorus approached Caesar with a note. Inside it were the names of the conspirators. "Read this immediately," he said. "It concerns your life." Caesar took the note, but didn't open it. The crowd, the petitions, the noise, everything got in the way. And that note was never read. Just like everything else that day, he chose not to take seriously. Historians say, when Caesar died, he was still holding that note in his hand. His chance to survive was right there. But he never used it. And that day, Rome's fate was sealed. But what if That day, Caesar actually understood all the signs trying to stop him, and still chose to walk into that room. The atmosphere in the Senate shifts. Hands move beneath their robes, gripping hidden blades, and in that moment, Caesar pauses. Everything from that morning, the warnings, the dream, the silence, suddenly makes sense. He understands. This isn't a meeting, it's a trap. But he doesn't step back, he steps forward. "Guards!" he shouts. The first strike comes, but this time, it misses. Chaos erupts. Doors slam shut. The Germanic guards rush in. Those who try to flee don't get far. Screams, panic, confusion, and Caesar no longer speaks. He commands, one by one. The conspirators are taken down. And when the room finally falls silent, no one dares to look up. They entered as hunters and left as prey. That day, Caesar isn't the only thing that comes out of that hall. Something else comes out with him. Revenge. The doors close. Those trying to escape are stopped. And in Rome, the hunt begins. The moment the assassination fails, Rome changes in seconds. First, chaos. Second, absolute authority. Caesar is no longer someone who forgives. Cassius, Casca, Brutus. None of them are remembered as heroes. They are remembered as warnings. The people were already on Caesar's side. After this, they are completely with him. The Senate, it's effectively over. Caesar no longer protects himself. He protects his power. The Republic, even if not officially, is effectively gone. And from this point on, there's no going back. The title Caesar refused his whole life is no longer even a debate, because now no one asks, will he become king? The real question is, when will he declare it? If Caesar had survived, Rome wouldn't just grow, it would change. First target, Parthia. The east opens up. Rome's borders expand far beyond what you imagine. The Silk Road comes under control. Wealth flows in. Rome is no longer just powerful. It's unmatched. One language, one law, one system. And the most critical point, Rome would most likely never split, because the reason Rome split was its size. It couldn't be ruled from a single center. But Caesar had already seen that. Stronger roads, faster communication, a more centralized system, not a divided empire, but a controlled one. And if that had happened, Rome wouldn't split in two. There would be no east and west. Maybe today, from London to Baghdad, there would be one system, one language, and humanity would be living in a completely different world. But here's the question. What if Brutus was right? Because in their eyes, Caesar wasn't a hero. He was a threat. He fed the people, but in return, he was concentrating power. Law, tradition, the system, all of it, slowly, was falling into the hands of one man. And for Brutus, this wasn't just politics. This was legacy. His family had overthrown kings. Now it was time for a new one. For them, this wasn't murder. It was a necessity. On one side, a stronger Rome. On the other, a free Rome. But both could not exist at the same time. The irony? The men who killed Caesar thought they were saving the Republic, but his death destroyed it. So tell me, would an unbroken Roman Empire have pushed humanity forward? Or would it have made the world darker?